Hi, I'm Andy with Family Style Schooling. I absolutely love learning Latin, but sometimes starting up Latin again can be kind of hard after a break. So here are 10 fun ways for you to reignite the joy of Latin with your student. One really easy way for you to reignite the joy of Latin in your life is to not be so afraid of the answer key. Don't put a number grade on the daily work. In fact, embrace the answer key and use it often. Don't wait till the end of the week to check your work, just to find that there are so many mistakes that you might have done. It's really hard to go back and fix all those mistakes, and sometimes it can be pretty discouraging. So instead, as you go, use the answer key and check what you're doing to find out right in the moment whether what you did or not is correct. And then you can go, and if you're not sure about why they did something about that, then you can defend the answer key and find out why did they do this in the way they did that? Why did they translate in this way? And that will really help progress your knowledge of the concepts you're working on, rather than just trying to throw things out there and then finding out that you messed up in the end. That can be pretty discouraging. If you do happen to need a grade to check the progression of your students' work, then grade a test or a quiz, but don't put a grade on the daily work. The fastest way to get overwhelmed in learning any language is to not memorize the vocabulary. It's something that there is quite a lot of, especially in Latin, and it comes after you every single lesson, and so it's something that we should be practicing every single day. But because of that, it can be kind of intimidating. But it doesn't just have to be hard. We have a link in the description, actually, of 10 different fun games that you can use to practice your vocabulary. You can use the flashcards that we've made if you need something quick to print off, or you could just make your own flashcards. Sometimes just writing the vocab words down can be a huge help for practicing vocabulary. But we also have a third resource for you, which is through practicing vocab with Minecraft. So as a kid, I found that one thing I had a lot of endurance for were games, or specifically Minecraft, and something that I didn't have so much endurance for was Latin vocab. So what if I took something that I had a lot of endurance for, Minecraft, and paired it with something like Latin vocab? So we put together lots of fun videos connecting Minecraft and Latin to hopefully encourage your students by engaging them in a world that they're familiar with in Minecraft, inspiring them with different builds so that as we continue to build on our world, we simultaneously encourage them to keep on building their Latin vocabulary, and hopefully they can find success in something that might otherwise feel intimidating. Sometimes Latin just comes to a point where you feel like you've hit a wall. Everything just feels unfamiliar and overwhelming, and everything just feels so new. Well, here is one way that you can fix that problem, and it's actually to go back. I know that does not sound fun, but I promise you, backtracking does not mean you're a failure. In fact, if you go back to the point where you feel like you started to feel that sense of uneasiness, but where you still felt like you knew a good bit of the content, if you start there, then you can rediscover that joy in that portion of your Latin studies, and then work from there until the point where you had felt stuck in the first place, and actually be able to push through. I've done this many times before. I actually went back and made a video for every exercise in the Henley textbook, and even then I found there were things that I didn't know. So keep working hard, go back if you need to. You don't have to be on track with everyone else. It's okay. One way that you can rediscover joy of learning Latin with your student is to copy charts. Learning Latin paradigms is so important, just about as important as vocabulary. And so one way that you can make this fun is to create a little incentive. Talk to your student and say, after we've copied 30 of these charts, then maybe I'll play Minecraft with you. They'll love that. This chart here is the type of chart that we have available. This is only if you put the active and passive side. Print it 2 to 1 page, but it looks something like this most of the time if you just want it a little more expanded. It's a great way for you to copy your charts with your students if you're interested. But don't leave your student alone. You don't have to be a Latin scholar to help your student in their Latin studies. My mom knew zero Latin when she started helping me with my Latin studies. She didn't even study any languages in college. But she stuck with me, she copied charts with me, she learned Latin songs with me, she watched Latin videos with me, she held the answer key when I needed it, she was there for me, and really just being together in the process is really just such a support to your student. And as you continue to sit with them, then you'll learn more as you go and you'll become more of an encouragement to them. How about approaching Latin from a different angle? Sometimes just approaching it from a historical perspective can give you new perspective on the language itself and on your own studies. Especially if your student loves history, this could be a super fun way to approach Latin. Hinley also is very oriented towards learning the texts of Caesar, and he uses military lingo all the time. You'll find, what are they doing with bodies in the river? What are they doing reconnoitering over there? Lots of terms like that, but if you dive into the fun Latin history, that might be a fun way to encourage your student. This Romans book is a super fun way to introduce your student to the Roman world. It's a fun way to look at the geography of Rome, how the Roman Empire expanded. You get to learn about the social structure of the Romans and how they lived their lives, and even some about Caesar and how he came into power. Introducing your student to the concepts behind the Roman world and its history can really help them in understanding some of those awkward sentences you may be coming across in the Hinley book. If your student is in Hinley 2 and starting to translate some of the original texts, this book might be really helpful for you, Caesar's Conquest of Gaul. I found that sometimes it was hard for me to understand even the English translation and the answer keys when I was translating. So sometimes understanding the story can really help your student in understanding what's going on. But I also have some fun videos if you're interested to help your student understand Caesar's Helvetian drive to the west. And I'll put a link in the description. Something fun that comes around in the spring of every year is the National Latin Exam. I found that the National Latin Exam was really fun because it gave some fresh and interesting drive to my Latin studies beyond just translating the original texts. Memoria Press has a fantastic guide helping you get into the National Latin Exam. There's some fun quizzes online if you want to try it out before getting into the full test, or you can check out my tips on how to prepare for the National Latin Exam. There's a link in the description. Sometimes it just helps to step away from the world of Caesar. One of my favorite ways to do that is to translate some of the Latin Vulgate, which is the Latin version of the Bible. When I was in the 9th grade, my mom created this side-by-side version of the book of 1 John. So we could see the Latin version of 1 John right next to the English version. And it was really cool because it gave me a spiritual and Bible-based context for the Latin language, and it also provided for me some really good conversations with my classmates. We have some really fun resources if you're interested in trying this out. We have this 1 John booklet, but we also have Romans 8, and I've also created a simplified version of the book of Jonah, which is pretty fun. That allows you to practice some of those Latin skills in a playful way. Another approach, if your student is interested in stories and in literature, is to go find a book that you really love and find the Latin version of it. Because what you'll find there is an uber fan of Latin who has translated that text from English into Latin just for your Latin translating fun. So sometimes whenever you translate in that way though, it's fun to have the Latin version, something like Catus Potacitus, and to have the English version, Cat in the Hat, ready so you can compare them. One fun way to work on your Latin in a joyful way is to practice with some puzzles. Take down the intensity of Latin a notch by experiencing it in a friendly and fun way. Your student might enjoy this more than a quiz or a test, but it still practices their vocab skills and helps them learn something new. If you're interested, you can grab below our free selection of these puzzles, or you can get the mega pack of our puzzles if you feel so inclined. If you're interested, I'm always posting new fun Latin helps on my YouTube channel, Latin with Andy. But if you're really interested in diving deep into the Latin language, then you should come join me in the Latin with Andy membership. All the resources that we've talked about here are included within that. It's just one membership for you and your family to enjoy. Thank you so much for watching, and happy translating.